Bonjour French 1. Next class, you have a writing assessment in which you will be given this writing prompt and expected to write as much as you can in French to satisfy what it asks you to do. So we've already practiced together in class. We're going to practice again right now and just give you some ideas on some things that you can write. The thing about writing prompts is they are very open-ended, so there's lots of right answers, and really what you need to focus on is what you do know how to say rather than what you don't know how to say. Showcase what you are able to say in French and don't worry about the things that you don't necessarily remember as well. So the topic again is you received a letter from a French pen pal asking about your class schedule or your school schedule. Write him or her an email telling about how your classes and how you feel about them, and ask about their schedule as well. Notice that I tell you you need to describe 3 classes. Don't worry about going above and beyond 3 classes, but do take your time and do a nice job with those 3 classes. Use a variety of sentences if possible. Really showcase how much you do know in your description of those 3 classes. So first things first, when you go to write an email to somebody or a letter, you can think of them in the same way, you've got to open by saying hi and things like that. So don't forget, one of the easiest ways of saying hi in French is to say salut. Of course, there's more than one way of doing that. But this is the way I'm going to use this time. A lot of times people like to ask, how's it going, things like that. Don't forget, how's it going is comment ça va. Hold on one second, it takes me a minute to do accent marks on this program. So, comment ça va, or just ça va will work for this phrase to say, hey, how's it going? Once you've done that, unless you kind of want to go on and on and on for a little bit longer and say stuff like moi, ça va bien, for me it's going good, and talk about yourself for a minute, you don't really need to do too much else of the cutesy stuff. You can get right into describing the classes. I would start off with maybe a nice summarizing sentence about how you feel about school. Think about it whenever you go to describe your school schedule. One of the things you might say right off the bat is, I really like school, or I don't like school. So being that I'm a teacher, I'm going to go ahead and say, j'adore l'école. I love school. Again, you don't have to say the same thing. You could say, je n'aime pas l'école, I don't really like school. And then I'm going to go ahead and launch into all of my stuff about my classes. So when you go to say that you have a class, you start that by saying I have, which is j'ai. Whenever you go to say the class, you don't need to put an article in front of it when you say that you have a class. So I'm going to say something like j'ai français, because I'm pretty sure all of you all out there have French classes. Now the other thing they want you to say about your classes is how you feel about them, but you could also talk about when you have a class if you wanted to go a little above and beyond. You don't have to do that every time. It just says tell about your classes and how you feel about them. So if you just want to say which ones you have and you don't want to go into detail about when you have them, you don't have to. I'm going to go ahead and say j'ai français du matin, in the morning. I know it's kind of general, but with the block schedule, it's the way you can be the most truthful, although if you want to say some days of the week, that's fine too. You do need to say how you feel about those classes. So when you go to describe how you feel about those classes, you need to say stuff like c'est fascinant, it's fascinating, or j'aime bien, or I really like it, or something along those lines. So there's one class. I've got French in the mornings, and it's fascinating. I might go ahead and say another class that I have at this point. Maybe I could say de l'après-midi, in the afternoon, just to switch up my sentences a little bit. Oops, sorry, not ready for that yet. There we go. Just to switch up the order a little bit so that I'm not always saying I have this at this time, I have that at that time. But you can do that. It's just a little bit more formulaic, and it's not necessarily showcasing the variety of sentences that you can write in French. De l'après-midi, in the afternoon. J'ai again is I have, and let's go ahead and say that I have chemistry. I could say something like je n'aime pas les sciences. I don't like sciences. I could say something like c'est ennuyeux. Again, I'm going above and beyond whenever I'm saying both I don't like it and it's boring. But these are all things you can say. It's just how much of it can you remember whenever test day comes. So in the afternoon, I have chemistry. I don't like sciences. They are boring. All right, I do need to say one more class that I have. Maybe I could say something like, le lundi, on Mondays, which I know with our block scheduling is a little bit of a stretch, but hey, I'll take it. It makes sense in the French language. J'ai, what other class could I have? Let's say j'ai maths. I have math class. Let's see. How about we give a little bit of information about the teacher this time? Le prof est génial. The teacher is awesome. Because we all know everybody's got awesome math teachers. And then maybe I could say something about how much I like that class. Use one of my phrases like j'adore les maths. I love math. Now, the last thing that you have to make sure that you do is ask your pen pal about their schedule as well. Being that I just stated that I love math, an easy place to fit in a question would be right now, although you can put the question in at any time in which it flows in the paragraph. But if I just got done saying I love math, maybe a logical question then after that would be to ask my pen pal, tu aimes les maths? Do you like math? And that right there is me asking them about their classes. If you want to use one of those more complicated questions, or if you want to get specific about those math classes, you could ask something like, quand est-ce que tu as les maths? When do you have when do you have math class? And that would be fine as well. But either way, again, I'm just giving you lots and lots of options. The last thing you'll want to do is close the letter in some way, shape, or form. So if you want to, you could say something like, I don't know, au revoir. I know you could use salut again to say goodbye, but it would be nice if you switched things up just a little bit, and then you can close the letter. One thing I did forget to tell you in the beginning is if you'd like to say dear somebody, wrong spot. If you'd like to say dear somebody, the way you say dear is by saying cher, unless it's got a girl, then you have to add the E. And you could make up who you're writing to. So you could say something like, cher Julie, dear Julie. And then you could get started. I'm not going to necessarily grade you on who you're writing to, but it makes it look so much more like an email or a letter or something along those lines. Hopefully I've given you some more ideas to help fuel your writing in next class. Make sure that you're thinking ahead about what you do know how to write. If these are not classes that you feel comfortable writing about, and you'd rather write about biology and geography and history, that's fine too. If you don't want to say it's fascinating and you'd rather say it's interesting, that's great. I just want to give you lots and lots of ideas to help you get ready.